Greetings, y'all. This is the Earth Mother. Today we are talking about humanity, or tonight, rather, we're talking about humanity. So, I've encountered people who judge, pick on, belittle people who are not like them. The main people who seem to get picked on the most that I heard are like people in the homosexual, transgender, LGBTQ community, that they get picked on and harassed and assaulted and all kinds of things. And a lot of times they may not be actually assaulted, but they're still ridiculed. And I find especially the men are. Like if a man is like a person who's born a man but maybe is feminine, so I don't know if that would be considered transgender, but that he's feminine, is picked on. They seem to be picked on more than anybody else from what I see and what my experience is. And being married to a person that uses a wheelchair, I've also, and that might be because it's a daily thing, but you'll see people judge him based on being in a wheelchair. So what I want to talk about today is humanity. Basically what it means for me is respecting people as humans. We don't have to agree. We don't have to be able to directly relate to another person's experiences, but we do need to respect those people, as humans. You don't have to like everybody. You don't have to agree with everybody. Actually, that would be rather boring if we agree with everything that somebody else said, or if we were all similar. Because I know in some ways we look for sameness, but diversity is favored by nature. Which means it's favored by us also. We would not survive if we were all the same. And plus, shoot, it don't need to be multiples of some of us, because I know it don't need to be too many of me. But it's like, I'll speak from what I have experienced with my husband and what he's told me, things that he's experienced. I know that we have had people. I remember one time we were at the mall and we needed directions. It's this mall here. It's relatively new, but when it first went up, it's like this big circle. So you try to not have to walk the whole circle. So we were asking this lady where this particular store was, and she gets down on like his level. It was like she was talking to a kid. So we were like, okay, where's a Nike outlet or whatever? And this is how she talked to him. She's like, okay, now what you want to do is you want to go right down here, blah, blah, okay? And we were dating at this time, and I'm at this point, and I was like, who is she talking to? This is a grown man. She, okay, you got it. Little did I know that wasn't even going to be the worst experience that I had with him, because at least she talked to him. We have been in countless situations where people would not acknowledge my husband. One instance is when we were going to see my niece in the hospital, and the lady, I guess security, but you had to get like a badge before you went up on the children's floor. And the lady was asking me, what's his name? So I was looking, because I'm used to having kids with me, and sometimes people do that with children. I don't think you should do that either. But sometimes they'll do it with children. I usually turn to the children and say, you can talk, tell them what your name is. But I look, kind of out of reflex to see I didn't have any kids with me. So I was looking at my husband, and I looked at her, and she's like, what's his name? Ask him. So she says, well, it's okay for a woman to talk for a man sometimes. Not when a man can talk for himself, so he have to go through this whole thing. Well, where's his license? Because you need an ID for the thing. Well, no, where's his ID? Because, of course, he can't have a license because he's in a wheelchair. So we have to go through this whole thing, and he is furious. I was pissed off too, but I got to get up here and see my niece because she had just had open heart surgery. So I told him, because he was mad at me for not reacting like I normally would. And I was just kind of like, no, because, my thing is we got to prioritize. Because if we had gotten in trouble with her at that point, we would have gotten put out of the hospital and wouldn't have been able to visit her at all. And so when we got upstairs, because I understand from being in the military, I understand chain of command. This idiot right here has a supervisor. So we went upstairs or whatever and checked on my niece first. And then I explained to the nurse what happened. And long story short, of course, when we came back the next day, she had a different attitude. Of course, she never apologized, but she had a better attitude. But it was just amazing to me, and my husband is 6 years my senior. It was amazing to me to see people just not acknowledge him. He's not human because he gets around with a wheelchair. People make all kinds of assumptions. One of the main ones is they always say to him, "Oh, she must be a good woman. She stuck with you, after you ended up in that wheelchair. Oh, she must be such a good woman." No, we only been married 8 years. He been in a wheelchair 20, maybe? Close to 20 years. So I didn't even know him when he got shot. Because, I didn't know he existed. So we actually met going to one of the community colleges here, taking a psychology class together. That's how we met. And yes, he was already in a wheelchair. And even as far as on another topic, I guess, with the homosexual community, a lot of times how we pick at these guys, and it's and maybe especially transgender, we will pick at them and pick at the mannerisms or whatever. And and I told my son one day, because he was, hey, look at that guy, da da da. And I was like, one, he clearly identifies as female. She clearly identifies as female. And it does take training to retrain your mind. You have to retrain your mind. But she clearly identifies as female. And what I ask him is, you're picking at her, but how much courage did it take, one, for that person, that human, to go through life feeling like they were in the wrong body? How much courage did it take for somebody who was born a guy, born in a male body, to change that whole identity to another gender and have to learn how to function as that gender in this world that they feel like they were actually born as? How much courage does all that take? How much courage does it take to go throughout every single day getting ridiculed and picked at and still press on? How much courage does that take? And are you making it better for them or worse for them? And what I found is that people, I don't think that a lot of times they're doing it to be ugly. I think that we don't know how to deal with things that we're unfamiliar with. And see, a lot of times, like with homosexuality, transgender, queer, things like that, we've been taught, especially if you're born and raised Christian, we've been taught that it's a sin. And further, a lot of us were taught about it as though it was the worst sin of all sins. Like, it's the sin of all sins. And so you carry that a lot of times, even after you leave the church or whatever, you still carry that notion that this is the worst of all sins. And my thing is, even if you feel like that person is sinning, you feel like they're sinning and you feel like for some reason their sin is worse than your raggedy sin that can't nobody see, can you not still see them as human? Can you not still respect them? And I'm going to tell you, you want to know how to get past it then. How do I get past Seeing this person as sinful, as a walking sin. How do I get past being uncomfortable around your husband, Fashayo, who's in a wheelchair, because it makes me uncomfortable? One, ask questions. Most people are just fine if you respectfully ask questions. Because most people would prefer that you ask the question rather than stare and make assumptions. Just ask. What is it that you want to know? The best examples you can find is children. He went to my son's class when they were still in school. And it was a pre-K kindergarten class, so they were Montessori school. And they were asking him, like, how do you put on your shoes? Do you sleep in the chair? How do you put your clothes on? All kinds of little day-to-day kind of stuff that adults want to know too. And children are usually more fascinated with the chair than they are scared of it. You'll see adults actually snatching their kids if they touch my husband, like babies, especially babies who are just learning how to walk, love to grab the back of the chair and push it because it's a walker for them. Or you'll see kids in strollers and they'll see him pushing his big stroller, because that's what it is to them, and they want to try to push their stroller. And it's hilarious to watch, especially if the parents don't see my husband, because they're trying to figure out what their child is doing. But just ask the question. Ask the people their stories. There is one beautiful spirit that I have met recently, and I hope that I'm using the right word. I know for a fact I've seen them use the word transgender and queer. But the most loving, kind spirit. And I ask all kind of questions, and I'm always like, okay, just tell me, like, if I'm being too nosy, but I'm not coming from a place of being nosy. I'm coming from a place of, I want to know, I want to understand. Because the more I understand, the less I judge. The more I understand, the more, I ain't gonna say that they weren't human to me to start with, but I'm saying the more I can relate, the more I want to defend when I hear somebody speaking ignorance. The more I want to make sure other people understand and know your story. We don't have to know the intimate details, but the more I can now talk about how beautiful, his marriage is to his wife. Physically gorgeous people anyway, but to see, the love between them and, all that kind of stuff, and the humanity. That these are people that y'all are, not y'all, we, because we all have something that we have to be mindful of, but these are people. They're human with stories just like us. They have families just like us, and sometimes, unfortunately, because we can be so inhumane to our brothers and sisters that they don't have family. That sometimes they're rejected by their blood family and all they have is us, because we're so scared of things that are different. And so all I want to do is encourage y'all to ask questions. Ask people their stories. People love telling their stories, and especially when you have a rapport with them. I ain't saying go up there, because I have had people ask me about my sex life, and depending on who it is, or depending on the venue, I guess, depending on the setting, I'll address it. When we were at the Into the Womb conference, I was talking about my husband, and I felt everybody's energy like zone into, the sex life. So I addressed it, and then I went on, whatever. But I was telling my husband about it tonight, and he was like, what did they say? I said, they were cracking up. But because I went ahead and addressed it, I was able to go on with the conversation, because a lot of times what happens is people get stuck in their own minds wondering, oh my gosh, well, what about this, or what about that? Well, how did it? Just ask, but we just, that humanity, acknowledging people's humanity is one of the major ways that we're going to heal. One of the major ways that we'll move past what we call hatred, but that's really fear. Move from fear to love. Because that's all there is. Fear and love. You function in one or the other. It's nothing else. Everything falls under that category. The reactions that we have to people or to situations come from fear or love. But being able to see people's humanness is going to be a major way that we're able to heal. Teach your children not to pick at people. Teach your children to humbly ask questions. I don't like that word. Lovingly. Yeah, lovingly, respectfully. To ask questions of people. It doesn't mean that they're always going to get a perfect response from somebody. But just respect the person. If they want to talk, they'll talk. If they don't want to talk, they won't. And that's up to them. But at least you try to come into their world. Empathize with people. What do you think it's like? Like, if I've lived in this body my entire life, but I felt like a boy, growing up, and I felt like a man, because I'm 37 now. So on the inside, I felt like a man. But I'm sitting up here with titties and, and a vagina, and I feel trapped inside my own body. Or, as I've recently heard, that some people just feel like they're going through an evolution. But guess what? Nobody cares, because I heard one of y'all, nobody cares what you think about their revolution or their evolution. Nobody cares. It's not your story. It's only your story to hear. It's not your story to tell. You have your own story to tell. And a lot of people don't want to tell that because they are fearful of people not seeing their humanness anymore, of people not loving them anymore. Just ask people to tell their stories. Ask the questions that you want to know. Love people. Empathize with them. Walk a mile in their shoes. How would you feel? How would you feel if that was your son or daughter? Because I found that even people who don't agree with homosexuality on the outside, when it's their own son or daughter, even if they still don't agree with it, they take a different stance when somebody starts picking at them or when they are being attacked or something like that. So why can't you take that stance before it's your son or daughter? I remember thinking that the worst thing my son, especially, I never thought about it with my daughter, but I remember thinking the worst thing my son could ever be was gay. I remember I remember thinking such a ridiculous thought. I remember thinking, if he was in jail for murder, I would rather that than for him to be gay. Do you realize how stupid that is? But it's a lot of people who feel like that. So I just want y'all to take a little bit of time to see the humanness in people, to think of what their story is, to ask what their story is. Okay? So anyway, that was my my share for tonight. This is Fashayo, the Earth Mother of Earth Mother Guidance. You can find me at www.earthmotherguidance.com. You can find me on Facebook by the same name. Please subscribe to my newsletter if you think you'll be interested in discounts on services and things like that. Please hit me up with any questions you may have, any topics you want me to cover. I thank y'all so much for watching. To my new subscribers, I see you and I'm forever grateful. To my familiar family and friends, familiar family, that's what y'all are for me. So to my familiar family, thank y'all so much for hanging with me. I love when y'all comment. I love seeing the videos get shared or whatever. I appreciate it. I really do. I even love the ones of y'all that like to get on there and start stuff. Why? Because you are still teaching me lessons and I'm forever grateful. So thank you so much for watching. Ask somebody their story and tell your own. Love y'all. Peace, abundance, and bliss. Odabo.